Well, hello and welcome to the Econobox Garage. This week's episode, I'm going to be focusing on the back end of the car to try and get the metalwork and first coat of primer on. So that will be both rear quarter panel patches in, the rear valance all trimmed up and welded in, and seam sealer applied. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and little bell icon so you'll get notified when the next videos come out. And I do appreciate all your comments. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. I now have the rear valance panel all welded in. Still a little bit of touch up to do on this side over here, but quite happy with how that's gone. And finished off the welding on this patch panel, so down through here, and I've got a coat of self-etch primer on there. So now that that's all welded in solid, the next task is to get the car back up on the rotisserie and get to work on the back edge of the boot floor. But before I can do any of that, I have to empty out the interior of the car. Started to use it as a storage spot, so I'll get this cleaned out and then I'll get it up on the rotisserie. So there we have the car back up on the rotisserie, and so I can get a look underneath at what I've got to work with. So next steps are to clean up this edge of the boot floor, get it nice and shiny, back to clean metal on this side. I'll put a C-clamp along here, clamp this panel to the boot floor, and then tack weld it all the way along there. Once I have this back edge all welded, I can trim the bottom of the repair panel, because they shipped it quite a bit longer than it needed to be. And then I can trim that, and we'll put seam sealer on all the seams in here and do our best to keep water out of the boot. Well, I've got things ready to start welding. So I'm using the C-clamps to bring this valance panel and the boot floor lip together as best I can. And on the other side of that clamp, I have my piece of flattened copper pipe that I used in the previous video, and I'll put a link to that up above. So what this does is gives me a nice solid backing for one thing, acts as a heat sink, and also helps prevent blow through on the welds. So I'll do this section up here first, and then I'll just move the clamps and make my way down. I'll have the first few welds into place, and it's working out quite nicely. So I'm down to here, and then on the other side, you can see there's no blow through, and I can just dress that up with the angle grinder or sand it down, and a bit of body filler, and that'll look as good as new. I'm going to have to trim the edge of the rear valance off before I start welding further down here. Up at this end, there's only about 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches. past the bottom of the boot lip. But as you can see down here, there's quite a bit more, and what happens is my clamps won't reach far enough in. So I'm going to measure this and figure out where I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut it so I leave about 1/2 inch of the rear valance panel in place. So there I've got my new cut line marked. Runs from here and down all the way to the other side, and I don't know whether you can notice or not, but the cutoff piece gets a little wider as we go down. I've situated the cut line 3/4 of an inch below the bottom edge of the boot floor, or the bottom edge of the lip on the boot floor, so that'll give me lots to work with welding it, and I can trim it up shorter if I need to. So there we are, we've got that nice and trimmed now, and I can disregard the previous mark. I'm glad I didn't cut along there, otherwise it would have been too short in a couple of spots. Now I've got an even edge all the way along here that I can get in there and welded. I've already adjusted this edge here so it flows nicely from the lip of the floor. I'm very happy with how this back edge has turned out. That's on the inside, and we'll have a look at the outside. So I still have some work to do up in here. There's a couple of welds one weld that broke I have to fix up, but generally go down the back end here. There's no blow through on the welds, and no warpage to speak of. And again, I've got some touch-ups to do with from welding down in here, and I'll decide if I'm going to leave this edge here or trim it back a bit further. I don't think it was quite as long on the original, so we'll have a look at that a bit later. For now, I'm happy with that. I'm going to flip the car over to the other side so I can work on putting the closing panel up in here. It'll be easier to work down than work up. Okay, so I have this panel all ready to go in, and I'm going to use the clamp and copper method again on this. So I've got the clamped in, piece of copper on the back, and then I'll get the welder in on the back side here and tack that all in. Same along over here. Once I've got this section done, I'll just unclamp that, move the clamps over and the copper over up into here. Now it's nice and tight. Repeat it over here, and then I'll just have to tack weld as best I can along this edge. So this is the last of the metalwork that I'll have to do, or at least the major metalwork I'll have to do on the body shell here. And it's just replace this area here on the left-hand side of the car, the rear quarter panel. The rest of the panel was in good solid shape, so I didn't feel it was necessary to replace the whole thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make up a template for this. This edge of the quarter panel is in solid shape, so I'm not going to disturb that. So basically I'll cut along this edge and then around the bottom up to here, and through here. So what I'll be doing is I'll be making a panel for here, then I'll cut that out, and then there's also repair needed on the shut plate in behind. I've taken a piece of paper and held it into place over the spot. There's the underneath, and held it on with magnets, and then I've also got some tape just on the panels so that I can make sure when I put this back in to check it, I can get it in the same spot, and just use the dirty finger method to make a line down there and along the inside edge. So I'm not going to cut the template over here yet. I can wait to get to the metal stage. The important thing at the moment is to get this edge and this bottom edge here, and then I can go to the metal and start cutting it to shape. So here's the panel clamped in place, and next I'm just going to run the knife along the perimeter on all three sides here, and then I'll peel the tape back, and that'll give me a mark of where to start cutting. So there you see I have the shape cut out where I'm going to cut, so I'm just going to cut up to the line of the tape, and then we'll start fitting the patch itself in. I have the old panel cut out. This will give you a rough idea of how the panel is going to fit in. So it fits in fine up around the top of that, and I'll just have to do some fettling around at the bottom to get the curve to match, particularly at that spot there. It's not too bad over on this side. So, but before I can do that, I have to look after all that. So there we have the before, and I guess I was going to say after, but this is probably more like during. So I've repaired all the stuff in behind, and I've got this all tacked in, and I have to go very slowly and carefully here so as not to warp and blow through, because I can't get my bit of copper in behind. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how this is going. So I do have to do a bit of adjustment down in here, and then I'll have to go around the back side of that and weld this panel to the repair on the shut plate on the other side. Once I finish welding that in and grinding it back, that'll be the last of the major metal work on the car. So there we have the patch panel in on the left-hand side of the rear quarter. Still have a bit of fettling to do, and it'll definitely need some body filler in through here. But all in all, I'm very pleased with the progress on the back end of the car here, with the rear valance and both rear quarter panel patches in place. Well, that wraps up this week's episode. Thanks for joining me. Please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon so you'll get notified when the next videos come out. Please leave any questions or suggestions in the comments section below. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.